Hi club members, my name's Hilary. I'm the tasting room manager here at Z Cuvée Winery. Joining me is Andrew, our associate winemaker. We wanted to share some of the club release wines for February of 23, so I think we'll just dive right in with the first one. So what's interesting about our Grenache Blanc vineyard is it is an organically farmed vineyard, and it is the vineyard that you pass through when you come up to the winery. It was planted in 2005, and it's about 3 acres. Cheers.
Cheers. So I get some honeysuckle, some actually honey wax, as well as a little bit of like slight petrol note, which I really like.
And for me, I get a little touch of like melon, almost like a green pear, a little softer fruit. Nice minerality. Absolutely.
Very bright. I think it really does tell the story of this vineyard.
Mm-hmm.
Cooler site, the coolest of all of the sites in our vineyard, and it really does show with that acid and the brightness.
What would you pair with this? Can you think of something that would just go?
I think the obvious choice for me is always going to be something seafood related.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this also, if it's grilled, even better. So
Absolutely.
Things like grilled shrimp or kind of with that minerality, it kind of shows that salinity as well. And I think it would really pair well with things like seafood. And also like hard cheeses, semi-hard cheeses.
That's where I was going, was a hard cheese.
Yeah. Or just hanging out in the sun.
Mm.
That as well.
Yeah, truly one of those wines that you don't really need to pair anything with, but will definitely benefit from any hard cheese, seafood.
Yeah, I would think anything that you would like squeeze a little bit of lemon or something on there as well. I think this would be a perfect pairing.
Definitely.
Adds that acid pop.
All right, so next up in the lineup for club releases is our 2019 Z Cuvée Blanc. This is a white Rhone blend comprised of mainly Grenache Blanc, a little bit of Viognier and Roussanne to round everything out. Cheers.
Cheers. I could hardly wait. You see that, I was anxious.
Now what's fun about this is the nose on this wine is so different from the Grenache Blanc that we just tried. Even though there's a lot of Grenache Blanc in this, the other varieties come in and just kind of rounds everything out. It's a little weightier.
I agree. And I think a cool part about this as well is it adds a little bit more layer. I think it makes it a little more serious of a wine. By that I mean, I feel like this can just sit down, age, and then just develop different layers, different aromas. The Viognier really pops kind of a nice floral and stone fruit note. And the Roussanne, I think, adds that kind of honey richness.
It is almost like a beeswaxy.
Right, and I think that it's that Roussanne that really kind of adds that that more robust kind of waxy and
I think with these with this blend is because it has a little bit more weight and body to it. It lends itself to some heavier dishes. You're not really having to just stick with a cheese or a lighter meal. I'm trying to think of what I would enjoy with this though.
I think the thing about this wine is that even though it has so much acid, you can get a lot of weight in the mid palate and a lot of minerality. And I think they'll really age nicely. I think it'll age really in an interesting way. It'll get richer and richer, and I think it'll fill out even more. I think the mouthfeel is the most interesting part of this whole thing. I think pairing wise, I think you could pair maybe with some cream dishes, you know, like pasta with cream, or even maybe chicken dishes that have a creamier sauce. But at the same time, I think it also can, with that kind of honey note, maybe things that you would kind of pair with honey. I mean, obviously cheese is always going to be one of those things, but also things with a honey glaze, or kind of thinking that way, even like a pork with a honey glaze, things like that. I think this would go nicely.
I was kind of picturing this like crostini with almost like a melted cheese on top with prosciutto, and then like a little drizzle of hot honey over the top.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking of hot honey chicken. I mean, that would be another one.
That would be great with this too.
So many options. I think it would be pretty versatile because of the layers. And this one also, as it warms in the glass, I think gets more and more interesting as well. So let it kind of hang out if you can, get a little, more to room temperature, and I think it'll change really nicely in the glass.
Yeah, definitely start with a colder temp, but let it warm. If you have the patience to wait for it to warm up a little bit, maybe by your second glass, you'll achieve that perfect temperature where all the aromatics are just coming forward.
Exciting. I think this is going to be a really nice,
it's going to be a very nice vintage
wine over time.
All right, so next up in our club release for February is the 2020 Grenache. This is aged for 16 months in neutral French oak. Since you are on the winemaking team, do you have a little bit of insight as to why we choose neutral oak for that?
The biggest thing for the Grenache, and particularly our Grenache, is that neutral oak, it's a great aging vessel. It allows oxygen in a really nice, slow manner, but at the same time, it's not imparting a lot of oak flavors and aromas into the wine. It just lets the fruit shine, it lets the Grenache shine, and it tends to be one of those wines that doesn't need new oak.
Yeah, Grenache is already a variety that's known to have spice already just built into the grape itself. So imparting any oaky flavors would probably take away from the nuance of the grape itself.
Absolutely. You don't want to hide any of this, the layers, like you said, they're just part of the Grenache here.
I do pick up on a lot of those. It's like a bright red fruit, very juicy.
There's some savory kind of thyme notes as well. And I'm getting kind of wild strawberry, which I like. And then with that savory kind of herbal note, which, like I said, is like more of a thyme kind of note.
Whenever I'm enjoying Grenache, I pay attention to the herbaceous notes that you were mentioning, and it makes me think of like an herb roasted chicken. It just complements each other so nicely, and that fruit's going to kind of liven everything up.
I think rustic meals when I drink Grenache.
Yeah.
This would lend itself really well to kind of, like I said, like a classic roasted chicken, or I think of things that are maybe southwestern France into northeastern Spain, kind of that Basque territory as well. Just kind of, this is where it's from, and I think it really, like where it grows originally, where it came from, it really does those foods like Spanish food and some of those more rustic French dishes as well. Even, like grilled sausages, anything that also is heavily herbed with things like sage or rosemary or thyme. I think this would really go well with that. The acid's really nice, which makes it even better with food. It'll age really nicely with that acid as well. And the fruit is really popping. It's really bright, but at the same time, really good mouthfeel from front to back. The tannins are at a nice spot now, but I really think that it's going to get more and more smooth over the years. And I would recommend on both the reds that we're talking about today, open that bottle if you can, if you have time, at least an hour prior. That's what we did with ours today. So either open up the bottle or decant if you have a decanter. I think it will really help this wine. As if you open it as it's young.
Yeah.
It is tasting really nice right now, and it, like I said, it'll age just really well.
Yeah, the decanting is going to help the aromas bloom, I guess you could say, and it'll help soften that tannin profile as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to take home a bottle tonight. It's great.
Now that it's released, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. 2017 Clydesdale. So much to talk about with this wine. Pardon my reach here, Andrew.
Of course.
Color's just gorgeous in the glass. Okay, so 2017 Clydesdale. This is a blend of Syrahs that are grown on the property. Essentially, could be considered some of our reserve Syrahs as well.
Yeah, this tends to be a kind of a fan favorite, and also one of my favorites as well. It's just an interesting blend of so many different blocks. So it's multiple clones, multiple blocks, and it tends to have so many different layers, and it can go different ways. That's what's so great about the Clydesdale. It also pushes the for me, those Syrah notes that I really like, kind of a little bit of cured meat. It's got kind of those dark, almost tar notes, kind of pushing lots of violet.
I think that helps round it out a little bit. That violet kiss you get on the finish as you're really taking in the aroma kind of lifts it so that it's not this like brooding Syrah, but it's a little bit lighter. For those of you who don't know why this is named Clydesdale, Clydesdale is a generational family name for the Cushmans who own Zaca Mesa. And it's only right that we honor their longstanding history in this region by naming a particular wine after them. And why not Clydesdale? It's a steady workhorse. It gets the job done.
On the palate, it's showing a little bit of youth, I think, but not in a way that's undrinkable right now. I think right now it is nice. Maybe an extra little longer of a decanting, I think, would really do well here. But it's kind of really nice espresso, fine espresso, and like dark chocolate notes to it. That's kind of what the tannin profile is showing for me right now. Lots of mid-palate weight.
But the tannins are definitely fairly prominent on your palate, but they're integrating nicely. I think with a longer decant, as you mentioned, would really bring this into a nice place.
Absolutely, and as well as the acid on this, even though it feels so, like you said, kind of brooding and big, the acid's really bright. It'll be really nice with kind of foods with some fat. I think it'll cut through that really well, and also offer a lot of that kind of that spice, that herbal note that's kind of savory herb. Kind of the sage is always kind of that very typical Zaca Mesa Syrah sage, which really shows the Zaca Mesa. I think it's cool how it carries through a lot of the Syrahs, and it really is part of our wines.
Yeah, it's a part of our terroir. Our vineyards are surrounded by California sagebrush, so it's only right that it would be found in the wines as well, as far as the aromatics and some of the flavor profiles. It's a really pretty wine.
It's great.
Wow.
Yeah, it's I think it is pretty, but at the same time, it's got this seriousness to it that makes you kind of think about it. Yeah, exactly. And this is one of those, I love Syrah. It's one of my favorite wines. So for me, I'm really enjoying this, just with all the layers. And again, over time, I'm not talking about years. I'm talking about in like an hour. I'm going to revisit this and just see how much it has changed. And I think it's going to be really interesting. And I know I'll be happy with the change and kind of seeing the difference between right when we open it, an hour later versus another hour from now.
It's amazing how much it can shift in just that amount of time, and then think about how it can shift while it's in the bottle as it's aging. Because this is definitely a wine that's drinkable now, but laying it down for some time, there's definitely that ability for ageability.
Yes, and I don't know if people can tell, it is a little chilly here today, and I think this is the perfect wine
gonna warm us up.
for anything chilly.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
I agree.